Hello, everybody, and welcome to Chat from a Hat. I'm your host, Josh Brown, along with my co-host,
Caleb Luther.
Caleb, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing better now that we finally got the show up and running.
Oh, Jesus Christ! You're not.
Gosh,
it took us almost an hour to get situated here with our new setup that we've got. But I think it's pretty cool little setup we got here.
Oh, we'll see, I guess. we might be listening to it and posting like, what on earth happened?
So
what happened
So
here?
forgive us as we still continue to work the kinks out, and we're only 5 episodes in. But
the way I look at it is that we've only had 4 episodes before this episode, and we're constantly trying to better ourselves, and that includes bettering audio and bettering our setup. So
it's a learning curve.
Yeah. So if
it's a learning curve.
If it seems weird for this week, hopefully it won't, though. Hopefully it just is seamless, a seamless transition.
I think we're going to be fine. I think
so too.
So Caleb, how was your week? What did you get into? Other than our week break off that we had.
Yeah, I mean, not a whole lot, just some work. Today I got my W-2 yesterday in the mail, so I figured today I was like, I'll go ahead and do this, so I can just go ahead and get that, collect that cash as soon as possible. And I was like, this is gonna be an easy 30 minutes in and out, and it wasn't. I did it through TurboTax, which apparently I did not do it through TurboTax last year, because whenever it got to the point at the end, it was pretty easy up until the end.
You did it with H&R Block last year.
I don't think so. I don't know who I did it, but it was easy last year too. But I got to the point where it said, okay, well, let's see some of your tax stuff from last year. And I was like, I don't know where any of that stuff is. And I was like, I don't have it. So I had to do this whole process through the IRS online, and I had to like verify who I was like 800 times through like. You like hold the phone up to you and it takes like a video selfie of you. Yeah. And like it's weird. Like it looks like super like technological whenever it's doing it. Yeah. I guess it's trying
to get like facial recognition software.
And it did that and a bunch of other stuff, and I finally got my tax information from last year. But it took me like 2 hours today. So that was just a headache. So I immediately just came over here to record the podcast after I got done. So that was my day. How have you been?
It wasn't too bad. Worked. We're getting ready to have some pulled pork this evening. That's going to be delicious. Not bad. Not bad. But Caleb, I wanted to touch real quick on. I'd sent it to you earlier about.
What did you send?
About Netflix and what's going on with Netflix.
Did you send that?
The password sharing stuff.
I must have not seen that, but I did see that though. I didn't see you send it to me.
Buddy, I think they're shooting themselves in the foot.
They're just.
I think they're
losing money maybe, and now they're trying to. All I know is that I feel sorry for anybody who uses my Netflix, because I'm covered. I'm good. I'm gonna continue to use Netflix, but anybody that's using my Netflix is screwed.
Well, not necessarily, because you'll still be able to use it because it'll be your home base or whatever they're calling it.
And I don't use it when I go out of town or anything like that, so I'm good with that. Yeah. It does suck though.
That's the thing. It's like, but here's my thing. It's like if you have Netflix on your phone and you have Netflix at your house, if you're on vacation and everything.
Yeah.
And you want to watch something on your phone, or if you're on a plane and you've got something downloaded or something like that, it's not going to work. It's not going to work for them.
That's how it seems now. That seems like the case now. Hopefully they'll find a way to work around that.
Well,
I don't know.
The problem is too is that there's too many streaming services now and alternatives for people to go to. Yeah. Netflix is not what it used to be. It's not the juggernaut that it used to be. It's definitely not.
It might be third or fourth best.
If I'm being honest, it may not even be third or fourth best.
I'm sticking with fourth. I think HBO Max is just like, despite the troubles that they've had, they are still far and away just like the best because they have all of the HBO shows.
Sure.
And then Hulu. Those two are probably the best.
Peacock is good too.
Peacock's okay. Peacock and Paramount, they're catching up.
And then you also have
Disney Plus,
YouTube. YouTube's always going to be
the it's YouTube,
But I'm just saying though, you can stream a lot of things that are on. You can watch full episodes of things on YouTube for free.
Maybe not great things.
But
things,
but stuff.
And if you want to watch podcasts and stuff like video podcasts, that's where you go. Is on YouTube. So, yeah.
So Caleb, 2 weeks ago,
our last
episode, we talked about our TV show drafts, and we have the results of that poll.
Yeah.
And it is polarizing. Let's put it that way.
Expectedly so.
Yeah, expectedly.
Yeah.
So in order to kind of better talk about how we came to the results of the polls, and I put quotations around polls.
Yeah.
We did 2 separate polls. We did one on TikTok and we did one on Facebook.
Yeah.
I blew Caleb away on the Facebook poll.
Yeah, you beat me by like 19 or 20.
By 19 or 20. It wasn't a huge margin,
14
but
or something like 35 to 14 or something like that.
Yeah. It wasn't a huge margin, but it was enough.
I never thought I was going to win Facebook. I knew that when I did the draft. It's just. I mean, I hate to say it's just West Virginia people. It just is.
But
it's my friend. It's basically just my friends list on Facebook. So I'm like, they are not going to be cool with my draft picks. They're just not. It's okay.
But then you went on to TikTok.
Yeah, TikTok.
And I got destroyed.
Where it's a little bit more diverse. People that I don't know at all. I won one.
But people that are catered to your particular.
See, I've heard you say that over the past week, and I'm not completely sure because I was like looking at some of those people, and I was like, some of the people do follow me.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I won 121 to 41 on TikTok.
So an overwhelmingly large margin on both of them.
Whenever you say catered towards my TikTok, I have specifically made my TikTok catered towards people who are obsessed with The Leftovers. And you picked The Leftovers.
Well,
that just goes to show maybe TikTok people weren't just voting for 2 shows. Like let's just say the Facebook West Virginians were. Regardless, 2 drastically different demographics of voters. I think you drafted to win that Facebook poll, and you did. Definitely not even close. I wasn't sure about TikTok. I wasn't completely sure about TikTok because. I thought maybe it would get like 10 or 20 votes. I was like, well, I might win if that's the case. But then the votes just kept coming in.
That's why you need to constantly put things from our podcast on your TikTok.
I was like, I am running away with this. But yeah, 2 drastically different polls, but it shows the different sides of people, I think.
Well, what were some of the comments on TikTok about me? Because I know it was...
Well, the TikTok...
I know they were mostly derogatory toward me.
You're not going to find the brightest folks in the TikTok comments, but... one of them was no Seinfeld or Curb, double L's. So you got...
we got the double L's.
So you got the L's and the W's in the TikTok language. One was gotta go Caleb, even though Breaking Bad is my favorite. You picked Breaking Bad, but with me. The only good show on Josh's list is The Leftovers in The Office. Which I was like, it's like, you picked Breaking Bad,
I disagree.
Right? W for Leftovers, so I guess they voted for you.
Sure.
Then this was a good one because I totally agree with this one. I believe I even said it whenever we did the draft. Arrested Development as 15th round pick is a steal. And I was like, I agree. And I got it.
I would agree with that. Sure. Sure.
Let me find Caleb's list is basically my exact top 15. That was cool. It's that's a cool comment. My 15 are not my top 15, but I do really like all those shows.
Yeah,
so
sure. You wouldn't have drafted them if you didn't like them.
There were a couple dumb comments, but for the most part just typical standard like surface level comments you get on TikTok. So.
Well, okay. So over on the Book of Face on Facebook, we had a few people. Adam Ditterbrand said, "How did The Simpsons not make anyone's list?"
And what did I say?
You said I personally only voted for ... because I took a screenshot of it. So, Adam, because we don't watch The Simpsons.
I only voted for stuff that I had seen all of, or at least like 90% of. There's so much of The Simpsons. I'm not a good judge of character on if The Simpsons quality-wise is still like up to par with these other shows.
Sure.
So I don't know. I wasn't going to vote for it. I mean, I wasn't going to pick it.
So also Shana Nelson said, I adore Breaking Bad and The Office, but I got to give my vote to Caleb for BoJack and Arrested Development. Arrested was way ahead of its time and so very underrated. And I'll agree with that. I'll agree with that. We both like Arrested Development very well.
One of the few people that voted for me on Facebook.
Well, our friend Jim said, I love Josh's Nip Tuck inclusion, but I'm a diehard Wire fan, so I got to give Caleb the nod. I'm going to throw a Mad Men or You're the Worst season watch in the hat while you're at it. Yep. Ginger said, I can't vote for either one of you because both left the most well-written show off of your list and then didn't bother to tell us what show she was talking about.
It was 100% The West Wing.
That's one of her favorite shows.
I have not seen The West Wing.
So Erica Kitchen said, tossing my vote into the void for Caleb solely because of Barry's inclusion. And then this person named Caleb Luther wrote, admittedly, I voted with my heart more than thinking about what the general public likes. I'll accept this turnout. And he did. And he lost.
But I won big on TikTok. I felt pretty... Here's the thing. Despite, me winning on TikTok, it's hard for me to be completely upset about that Facebook vote. But I will say that through years of online polls and stuff like that, telling people, hey, The Sopranos and The Wire are the two greatest shows of all time, I still think there's a lot of people in my friends group who just have not seen The Sopranos or definitely not The Wire.
Oh, I agree.
And
I agree.
That needs to change. It needs to change because consistently those two are up there in like the top 3, top 5 shows of all time. So that's just my 2 cents. People need to watch those the way they watch Breaking Bad.
Need to get on board.
Get on
That's
it.
what they need to do.
And The Leftovers, obviously The Leftovers too, which is my favorite show. So.
Oh yeah, The Leftovers is fantastic.
Don't watch it if you're depressed.
Oh yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
I won't argue that.
All right, what's next?
We had to get our topics over here because I put them in the floor.
Where are we?
Where are we? Well, we're at home in my home, recording this podcast. Technically, we've pretty much got everything so far as looking back. So let's move forward.
The Oscars nominees came out. I don't have much to say. I probably would have had more to say last week, but I'm just like,
it is what it is.
They did a good job. They really screwed the pooch on like cinematography, but everything else, I'm like, good. I'm not mad.
Not mad about it?
I'm not mad about it.
For the first time, folks, he is not mad about the Oscar choices.
It's not true. There's been a couple times.
Well, Caleb, this week we decided to do 80s albums. Now, when we talked about doing this before, we didn't necessarily have a set ratio or set rules. But on the way home, to take you home that evening, we decided to have these set rules in place. So
it made it more difficult in a fun way.
It did make it very difficult.
Yeah.
So the rules are that we can only have one album per band per year. So what that means is that I can't have 5 Kiss records, or I can't have 5, Peter Gabriel records, or 5, It has to be one artist, one album for each individual year.
Yeah, so
you'll understand that when we start getting into this.
You can't have multiple albums from 1983, just one. So it's from 80 to 89, one album from each year.
So strap in. We got 20 albums to go through.
Dude, I've been listening to these albums. Like I told you before, prepping for this episode, I believe is making my Spotify Wrapped extremely cool for this upcoming year.
I understand that.
Yeah.
But, now, have you went for records or albums that you love and listen to, or the albums that you think are legitimately the best of that year?
It's weird. Some of these are some of my favorites, but some of them are pretty new to me. I'd say even because having to make that adjustment because. Some of these albums by some of these bands aren't my favorite albums from that band.
Sure,
but the fact that we had to pick one album from each year, some other years I'd be like, well, I want to choose this album
with our rules that we're in play. Yes.
So for some other years I was like, what am I going to choose for this year? Because there's nothing there.
Exactly.
So I'd say some of these I would consider the best, the actual best, but. For the most part, I was just trying to make my list as diverse as possible.
Sure.
And not make it just like a one-trick pony when it comes to genre. So, yeah.
I'll agree with that. I have a little bit of everything on here, honestly, which is kind of cool. When I was sitting and doing this list, 1985 was the hardest year to come up with something, and then I realized an album that I listened to in early years of college that you will know what I'm talking about when I say it. But do you want to go first?
I'll go first.
So 1980.
Right off the bat, 1980 was tough because one of my
not for me.
One of my favorite. Oh my gosh! When I think about an artist like Kate Bush, I'm like, well, if almost every year in the 80s I could have picked a Kate Bush album, and one of my favorite Kate Bush albums came out in 1980. But I was like, that's not the one I want to choose though. I wanted to choose an artist which this was their only album from the 80s, so I wanted to represent them, and this was the only way. And you know what? I just so happened to love this album. That is Gaucho by Steely Dan. It was their final album. Like it wasn't their final album because they did come back and make an album in like the early 2000s, but for 20 some years it was their last album, and it's carrying off of that like Asia spirit from the late 70s, which is considered their strongest album. But I'd say that Gaucho is a little bit more. I know people already consider Steely Dan this, but a little bit more yacht rock. a little bit more relaxed, but still a lot of jazz influence. It has a few of their biggest songs like "Hey 19," which I think was one of the first Steely Dan songs I ever got into. Which coincidentally, I got into it when I was around 19, and I was obsessed with that song. So not a problem picking this album at all. Like it was a joy for me to embrace this album again. It's been a while since I've sit down and listen to this album from beginning to end, and songs like that and Babylon Sisters, and obviously the title track Gaucho. And there's also a weird song that I never really gave that much of a chance to called Glamour Profession. And this happens in Steely Dan songs a lot, where the instrumental will just be so menacing and kind of dark, but then the song actually gets going. It's really like happy and go lucky. They can just change that in like the drop of a dime. And I had a really fun time listening to this one. Not my personal favorite Steely Dan album, but I think it's a great album, and it's a good one to start this list off with, I believe.
Well, and we forgot to mention too that we're going to give like 3 to 4 tracks of people to check out if they haven't
obviously, Babylon Sisters and Hey 19 are like the two like big songs, but Glamour Profession is probably one that a lot of people won't recognize by Steely Dan, and it has a really cool instrumental in that one. Even though it has vocals, the instrumental is like it's dark until it's not. that's kind of Steely Dan in a nutshell. So,
well, my 1980 record was the record that when we talked about doing this, I figured that you would guess right off the bat that I would put in here, and that's "Remain in Light" by the Talking Heads.
Okay, yeah, I figured you was gonna put that one on.
I absolutely love every single song on this record. Born Under Punches, the very opening song when the drums kick in and David Byrne just lets out this screech. And it turns into just chaos. It's new wave world music, just chaos. And it sounds like something that shouldn't work, but with what they have, it works.
Yeah.
Let's see. It's sonically, it's awesome. It's just the way that it goes. They really work hard on having a stereo mix. Yeah. And I love albums that do that. That you literally can take an earbud out and not hear anything.
Like a lot of the Beatles albums.
Right, exactly. But Tina's bass on this album is stupid good. Like, it is just, she's all over the place. She keeps the groove so much in, especially like Once in a Lifetime, Houses in Motion, Born Under Punches. I mean, for me, though, those 3 songs are the standout songs on that. A lot of people would say Cross-Eyed and Painless too, but I would say Born Under Punches, Once in a Lifetime, and Houses in Motion.
Would you say Once in a Lifetime is the biggest song on the album?
Oh, yeah. Well, it's
probably about their biggest song.
It's probably
like, obviously, Psycho Killer gets played a lot. But would you
Burning Down the House and
would you
and
consider
song.
This their best album? A lot of people do.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I completely. It's to me, it's a toss up between. If we're talking the best album, it was really hard for me. It's my personal favorite album, but it's a toss up between this one and oh God. I lost the next album, the next record. Yeah. Speaking in Tongues.
Yeah.
It's a toss-up. I mean, it's really hard to pick, but for me, just from a musician standpoint and stuff too, that album feels more cohesive compared to Speaking in Tongues. Speaking in Tongues feels a little more commercial without being commercial. But Remain in Light.
As commercial as Talking Heads can
probably I mean, when you get to we could do a whole episode on Talking Heads, but so that's my 1980 record.
It's also cool and fun to mention that David Byrne, Oscar nominated singer, because he got nominated for a song from Everything Everywhere All at Once with a couple different artists. The song got nominated a couple weeks ago, and that was pretty cool also. So
pretty sure like he's almost got the EGOT. I think. Does he have one? Does he have a Tony Award?
Listen, I don't know.
I don't know either.
I have no clue. Okay, moving on to 1981. 81 was a difficult year for me. I was not born yet.
Oh my
no, God. But 81 this was actually probably one of my least favorite albums on here. But I'm still glad I get to talk about it, because I was pretty obsessed with this album in my late teens. Whenever you go through that classic rock phase, you're like, classic rock is way better than modern music. And to some extent, yeah, it is. Mm-hmm. But I was really into this album because my dad was, and there's some bangers on this album. That is Blue Oyster Cult's Fire of Unknown Origin. And I believe it's actually my favorite Blue Oyster Cult album.
Okay.
And whenever you look at a modern band like Ghost, You think about like their sound and what influenced it. I think there's a lot of stuff on this album in particular, because this album really brings in a lot of the organ elements that you'd hear in some of Ghost's stuff. And obviously it has like "Burnin' For You." "Burnin' For You" is one of their biggest songs.
Sure.
Has "Veteran of Psychic Wars," which I
love that song.
Which, I mean, Metallica
love that song.
It is a great song, and they have a song like "Joan Crawford," which is very dark as well. I think this was probably one of their more commercial albums.
Well, it's probably their biggest
but I'm
album
telling you,
when it comes to.
It still rules. It's very good.
Well, that's the thing. People want to talk about how commercial is not artistically or not great at times, but there are plenty of bands that have commercial albums that are just as good as anything that they did before.
Oh yeah, this is I mean, obviously the hits are great, but I mean, like the closing track, "Don't Turn Your Back," that song haunts me in a good way. You know, it's not like it's a particularly dark song like some other songs. It's just a really nice song. It has like a little bit of a sorrowful edge to it, but also has like a really killer guitar solo. One of their best guitar solos, and that's saying something because they have some amazing guitar solos.
Sure.
The album, but I definitely liked it more when I was around 18 or 19, and yeah.
You were pretty big into Blue Oyster Cult.
I was, especially this album.
Yeah.
This was the album, and they shaped some of my guitar playing like lick styles there, but not so much anymore. But at the time, yeah. That's all I have to say about it, and that's all I have to say about that.
Oh my God,
it's like Forrest Gump.
So 1981 for me was I wouldn't say it was hard, but I kind of had a general idea. Again, it was another toss-up between two albums of what I wanted to put on here. But I went with "Ghost in the Machine" by The Police.
Oh, okay.
It's reggae rock, pretty much. Again, another album where Sting is venturing into world music. With a lot of horns, a lot of synthesizers. I was like researching the record and stuff, and did you know that it only took them 4 weeks to record "Ghost in the Machine"? The whole record. I mean, in 4 weeks.
When you know what you're doing and you know what you want.
Yeah.
And you're working consistently. Yeah, that seems plausible. So.
Yeah. So it took them 4 weeks to record that record and have it done, completed, and out. That's insane. Like, cause you think today,
especially a big album like that from a big band like that. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing about the Police too. Is like they had an album out every single year for 5 years, except for. I mean, 82 kind of had Synchronicity kind of close between 82 and 83, but they had an album out every year for 5 years. Bands don't do that anymore. Like, a band is lucky to get an album out every 5 years, 5-6 years.
Yeah.
It's insane to me.
I'm always up for that one album per year kind of band.
Yeah.
So this album has like every
little thing she does is magic. Yeah. It's got him. My tracks talking about Demolition Man, One World Not Three, and Invisible Sun. That's the 3 tracks that they're not. I mean, they're kind of dark lyrically, but they're pop. They're almost pop songs. But they're like I said, lyrically they're super super dark. But yeah, I mean, the only problem that I have with the record is they cut the song that's probably one of the best songs on it. It's called "I Burn For You," and that was on the Police box set years later. It was recorded at the same time, but they cut the song, and it's like, I think it's one of their best broody melodic songs. But so check that one out too. But "Ghost in the Machine," The Police, 1981.
The Police.
The Police.
Moving on, 1982. I can't remember what all I had up against this album, but I feel like this was the one. This was the album that I had to choose. It's been my destiny for my whole life is to choose this album and to talk about it. And I'm going to Kate Bush, and that is her album "The Dreaming." If you are wanting to get into Kate Bush, this is not the album to start with. I'd say it's like the fifth. It's like the 5th album to start with. Whenever I got into Kate Bush around 2017, I saw this album and I was like, nah, no thanks. I'm going to try some of her more accessible stuff, which it's not like any of her stuff is that accessible. But The Dreaming especially. Like, there was a drastic change between her 1980 album, Never Forever, and The Dreaming. It was just way more avant-garde pop, experimental.
Sure.
Almost progressive rock at times, but let's say progressive pop is what it is. very strange recording techniques and production, because I believe this was maybe her first album where she was a co-producer on herself, and lots of weird drum choices and stereo effect choices. But I love this album. Now that I've had 5 years, it only took me about 5 months to really get into this album. But whenever I did, I took off with it, because it's great. There's no songs on here that people who would recognize Kate Bush songs will recognize. There's just no big singles. It's just not that kind of album. It's kind of scary. It's like it carries over because their next few albums had some scary dark choices. That's just Kate Bush in a nutshell. But in the mid to late 80s, she really dived into that 80s sound that maybe for some people won't hold up as well. But for me, it's a very exciting and sorrowful and, like I said, kind of scary album. The opening track, Sat in Your Lap, starts with this drum beat. It's like bump it, dump it, bump it, bump it. It just kind of goes the whole song. I'm not even sure if the drums on this album are actually physically played. I don't know. I can't tell if they're drum machines or what, but whatever it is, it sounds great. And I believe this was around the time that whoever was playing bass for Kate Bush, it might have been the album before this, but they started playing a fretless bass, and that really, you can really hear that on the album. There's some, like I said, there's some choices on this album. The title track, "The Dreaming," is she does an Australian accent on it. It's almost like a concept album because she's British, but she'll do different styles of British accents. So I think for the theater community, this is their big album.
Sure.
And Big Boy from Outkast. You know the rap group Outkast.
Yeah.
He has cited this as one of his favorite albums of all time. And
wow.
Yeah, I just think people that are really into more of artistic elements of theater and music, this is the one. It has one of my favorite songs by her, "Night of the Shallow," which has this what's the instrument? The bagpipe. It has a bagpipe in it, and it's whenever it gets to that bagpipe, the song just takes off. I love this album. I go back and forth between this and a couple other Kate Bush albums as my favorite. I can never really pick, but as far as Kate Bush in the 80s, this is the one, and easily my 1982 pick.
Sure. So my 1982 pick is "Tug of War" by Paul McCartney. The first record after John Lennon's death in 1980. It's a very stripped back to basics record for Paul. It's very, it's got a lot of horns. It's got a lot of just acoustic guitars, but it also has a lot of electronic stuff on it too. So it's kind of a mix of all of it. And it's got Stevie Wonder's on it.
Oh, cool.
He's on 2 tracks. What's funny is that the fact that a lot of people call it the last Wings record too, because Denny Lane, who was in Wings, plays on it, and so does Linda play a lot of stuff on it. But also Ringo plays on the album as well. So it's kind of like a bridge between the Beatles, Wings, and solo stuff. There's 2 or 3 link tracks on them that are just throwaways, but the actual meat and potatoes of the record is fantastic. Take It Away, Tug of War, and Wanderlust is the 3 songs, if anybody's going to listen to this record, to check out. Absolutely awesome songs.
So Michael Jackson isn't on this one, is he?
No, Michael's on Pipes of Peace, which is the sister album to this one.
So that has Say.
Yes.
Okay.
And that came out in 1984, I believe.
Okay, so that was
Yeah, so that was the next record, because Tug of War, Pipes of Peace is brother-sister records, which is cool.
Sweet.
83.
83. I was hoping we was gonna pick the same album for 83. I don't think we are gonna pick the same album for any year now.
Oh no, I doubt it.
I doubt it.
Highly doubt it.
Because this was the only one I was like, maybe we picked the same album, because I kind of went out of my way to pick this one, because I originally had an REM album here.
I was gonna say, we could probably talk about it anyway.
You might have more to say about this album than I do, but I initially picked REM's debut.
Sure.
I was like, you know what? People expect that from me. And whenever we get to the 90s, I'm definitely going to talk about REM. But as far as the 80s, I want to expand my horizon and get into this other album, which I've listened to a bunch of times before, but never really dug deep into it. And I spent the last 2 weeks listening to this album, and it is great. I think it has some of their best songs, and that is "Synchronicity" by The Police.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. The Police. So we have 2 Police albums on here. So.
Just for the record, okay? Here's why because Synchronicity was on here.
Yeah.
Until I got to my 83 album. But here's the thing. I was debating between Ghost in the Machine and Synchronicity. To me,
yeah, Ghost
in the Machine doesn't have a single skip. Those 2 songs, Miss Grodenko and Mother, on...
I'll go and tell you.
On Synchronicity.
You know one of my songs I have listed on here?
Oh my God.
I have Miss Grodenko.
Jesus
You know what? There are some weird songs on this album.
There is.
Compared to the singles, like, there are some weird songs.
There is.
And Miss Grodenko is one of those songs that's like a little bit under 2 minutes.
Yeah.
But it's so bizarre that I love it. It reminds me of, like, I hear that and I'm like, oh, this is why the Pixies became a band. Because the songs like this, probably.
I absolutely love Miss Grodenko, okay? I love that song.
It has some crazy instrumentation in it.
It does. But I can't pick those over...
I understand that. But I guess Synchronicity is a little bit more of just my tempo. Not to get all whiplash on you. But what's that other weird song? Mother.
Oh,
God, that is weird. That was a little too weird.
Yeah.
So I did skip that.
And the problem is that they're stuck right in the middle of the album between... Walking in Your Footsteps, and I believe Wrapped Around Your Fingers, right around that,
maybe,
or Every Breath You Take. Breath You Take.
See, I'm not big on walking Your Footsteps.
I'm not either.
But Synchronicity 1 and Synchronicity 2 are amazing. Yep. And you know what? I know it's overplayed, but you know what? It's still a really great song. Every Breath You Take is great.
Yep.
And King of Pain, I have I have nostalgia for King of Pain through Weird Al.
Yeah.
Because he had King of Suede that came out in the 80s. So, like, at the time, I didn't even know, what is King of Pain? I don't know what that is. Then I got into it. I was like, this is a great song.
It's a great song.
So Weird Al sort of like that gateway to get into, and what's the last? Murder by Numbers?
Murder by Numbers
is great. Oh, my gosh.
Tea in the Sahara, and...
I don't really like that one.
Oh, I love that song, dude.
Maybe it's kind of like a dragger. And
I love that song.
But Murder by Numbers is super, like, jazzy and...
Wrapped Around Your Fingers.
So is Murder by Numbers, like, technically their final song? Like, other than, like, maybe, like, live recordings?
Oh, God.
Synchronicity is their last studio album, right?
I think there's one more song. I think they redid Don't Stand Too Close to Me in 86.
That does not count. We don't count It's Murder by... We're going with Murder by Numbers because it's a good one. It's a good one to end on. So, I really... Yeah. There was just so many elements that I'd forgotten about on this album.
Yeah, and, it's a really great album.
I'm glad that I got to revisit it for the past few weeks.
So... When Sports came out in 83, I think they really came into their own. Commercially and artistically. Because my 1983 album is Sports by Huey Lewis and the News. God. I love this record, dude.
Let's see Paul Allen's album. Let's see what he chooses.
We'll put the sound clip of that in there. So when you think pop music in the 80s, in the early 80s, you can't help but think of Huey Lewis and the News. Yeah, sure. They were the band. In the early 80s. Mm-hmm. It's an album of pop, rock, harmonies, doo-wop. It's everything. I really do love this album. It's another album, again, I don't think has a single skip on it. The only song that really that doesn't feel like a Huey Lewis and the News song is Honky Tonk Blues, which is a cover by Hank Williams. Mm-hmm. But it's at the end of the record, so you can forgive that. But it's got like some of their biggest hits on it. Heart of Rock and Roll, I Want a New Drug, Heart and Soul, Bad is Bad. It's literally a greatest hits record. Walking on a Thin Line is on that album too. When you think of Huey Lewis and the News, you think of this one and 4. And without question, it is a greatest hits album because every single song on the record that was released as a single was like a top 20 hit. Mm-hmm. They were untouchable in 83 to 86. Love that album.
I'm Huey Lewis illiterate for the most part. I know some of those songs that you mentioned.
That's okay.
But I don't know them that well.
He's definitely worth checking out.
Yeah, he's worth murdering over apparently.
Apparently so.
We're making American Psycho references here, obviously. Where are we now?
Which, if you haven't seen, go watch. We're at 84.
84. Oh, this was another one that I kind of like scooped in, which is crazy because you know what? If I'm being totally honest. My actual favorite album in 1984 is Let It Be by The Replacements. But in order to make this whole decade thing work, I had to choose. I couldn't choose it.
Exactly.
I had to do
I know
something
that
different.
it's so hard.
So I choose another album by an artist that I just recently got into over the last year or so.
XTC.
And you know what? No, no, I do. No. But and I've been saying this artist's name wrong, maybe just quietly, because I don't think I've ever talked about this artist out loud. But Sade. Sade.
Yeah.
Sade.
Yeah.
Spelled like Sade, but
Yeah.
pronounced Sade.
Yes.
Her debut album, Diamond Life.
I have never heard a single song.
You know what? Amazing.
I've heard good things.
Oh gosh, yeah.
But I've never heard a single song.
Yeah. So super smooth. Somebody's making some noise out here. The opening track, Smooth Operator.
Yes.
I mean, it's in the title.
Okay, maybe I have heard it. Yes.
It is smooth.
Operator. Is that it? Is that the song? Smooth Operator or whatever, something like that.
Smooth Operator.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So I have.
So there's some really musically.
We apologize for the singing.
Musically, this album is incredible. Obviously, that lends to the production. Obviously, just a blissful listen to it with these kind of good headphones on that I have on right now. And the second track, Your Love Is King, is one of the best songs ever. I'm still not I'm not as nuanced in the way of Sade as I would like to be. Still, I've still really only gotten into her first couple albums.
Sure.
But this debut album, it has to be one of the best and most, dare I say, groundbreaking debut albums from any artist ever. Because whenever you listen to this album, it sounds like a seasoned artist. It sounds like someone who's been at the game for 10 plus years or whatever. And I don't know. I'm glad that this is the album that I went with for 84, because I think that this is gonna help me get into a lot of her other stuff, and other than her first couple albums, because it just has that really smooth jazz with also some nice R&B, and also maybe some experimentation here and there. It's pretty daring album, but still, I'll recommend it to basically anyone. Very very easy to listen to.
Very cool. Very cool. All right, Caleb. So my 1984 record is a record that really doesn't need anything said about it. It's Purple Rain by Prince. I mean, that's...
Let's not say anything about it. Just kidding.
I mean...
Continue.
1984, Prince could do no wrong. He was at his peak, popularity-wise, artistic-wise, arguably. I mean, what else? What needs to be said about Purple Rain? I mean, the album, every single song was a hit. It was one of the first records that had the majority of the songs be released as singles, and they all charted.
It's a classic.
Insane.
Yeah.
Insane. Yeah. Listen to the record. I mean, don't pick 3 tracks. Just listen to the record.
Yeah.
From start to finish.
And then watch the movie.
Movie's not bad.
Sure.
Movie's not bad.
Okay.
You've not seen the movie, have you?
No, I haven't seen the movie.
Oh, my God, Caleb, Jesus.
I still haven't fully dived onto the Prince train yet, even though he's amazing.
Get on board, bud.
Sorry.
Get on board.
Maybe one of these days.
Maybe.
Okay.
Doubt it.
On to my 85. 85, which you said 85 was a tough one for you. But 85 for me, easy one for me. It's Songs from the Big Chair by Tears for Fears.
I knew it. I called it.
It's got to be that, right? It's got to be that.
It's got to be that for you.
It's either going to be that or The Hurting from 83, but no. Songs from the Big Chair, incredible album. I mean, this is another one. I mean, there's only 9 songs on it or so, but while not all these songs are big hits and big singles, they certainly could have been. But they didn't want to show off too much.
Well, that's technically their biggest record.
Songs like
right?
Shout, Everybody Wants to Rule the World, Head Over Heels. I mean, gosh, these are big songs. But my favorite song from the album is The Working Hour, which is the second song, which is slow building, leading into this amazing lead saxophone. It is a perfect song. It's one of many perfect songs. A song like Mother's Talk, which piggybacking off that Kate Bush comment from earlier, totally progressive pop. This album at times is almost a progressive rock album, but in a new wave fashion. And Everybody Wants to Rule the World. I mean, gosh, I don't care how many times you hear it, it's great. Head Over Heels, same way. I wore that song out after watching Donnie Darko, just like everybody else. But re-listening to it, I'm like, this is an amazing pop song. Love this album. It's the only album on here that I own on vinyl. And great, loved it.
And the thing of it is about the hits of those, and I say hits loosely because, like you said, any of the songs on that, if the song comes on, you're not skipping those. No. You're not skipping those tracks because they're just that good.
Even there's like an instrumental piece that comes in right before Head Over Heels, and then at the end of Head Over Heels, that instrumental piece comes back. But if you're listening to the album, it's perfect. You're just not going to listen to that track individually, probably.
Sure, but
if you're listening to it straight through, you're like, okay, this is an experience, and they perfectly encapsulated everything that they wanted to, from becoming like sort of like this dark, like kind of depressing new wave band to becoming like almost like a progressive pop band.
Yeah.
So
my 1985 record is Riptide by Robert Palmer.
Robert Palmer. What did he sing?
Addicted to Love.
Okay.
So it is technically an artist that I do like. I do like about. Here's the problem. Here's the problem with Robert Palmer. And it's not a problem, really.
Here's the problem with Palmer.
Here's the problem.
How dare he, for one thing.
Yeah, how dare, yeah. A lot of his earlier stuff is kind of like new wave, kind of soulish, kind of, and it's great. He's a great vocalist and stuff. I just can't get into it. I cannot get into a lot of his early stuff. But when he got with Andy and John from Duran Duran, boom, he found his niche. He found it, and Andy wrote a lot of the songs on Riptide with Robert Palmer. So it's just it almost feels like a really heavy Duran Duran record, but with this really soulful guy singing it.
Yeah.
I love the record. A lot of people think Heavy Nova is better from an actual like musician standpoint and everything, and I love Heavy Nova, and that came out 2 years later, but nothing beats that original finding his footing as far as music goes, and finding his audience and everything. And I just think it's a great record. I think it's fantastic. It's got a lot of covers on it, which is not bad. They're not bad covers. I think some of the covers are better than the originals, but not a lot of original music. But yeah,
does that album have Addicted to Love on it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, it's got like the 7-minute long version of it, but a lot of people
don't
know. Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah. It just keeps going. Which is fine. Yeah, it's fine. It's that really crunchy guitar solo in it. It's so good.
Okay. So my 1986 pick is actually my favorite out of all my picks, and just straight up one of my favorite albums. And this was tough because, similar to Kate Bush, any of this artist albums from the 80s I could have put on here because I just love them all. But I went with XTC's album Skylarking, which is sort of like their deviation from not necessarily making like unmarketable music, but really like diving into that, hey, like we're kind of like the Beatles of the 80s, where we can make really, really poppy music one second, then have like some crazy thing happen the next second.
Sure.
But this album is very consistent. The sequencing on this album is amazing. Like some of the ways the songs go into other songs is just perfect, and it feels very cohesive. It was produced by another really classic songwriter, Todd Rundgren. And apparently
I've heard of him.
The lead singer, Andy Partridge, and Todd they did not get along, which in result made maybe their best album, because whenever you have like two like power hungry and just difficult to deal with people like hashing it out, I think you're going to make something kind of brilliant happen here. This album has the first song I'd ever heard by XTC, because I heard it in the movie It from a few years back, and it's Dear God. They didn't want to put the song on the album because they didn't want to like alienate people because it was an anti-religious song. But Todd was like, you got to put that song on the album, guys. You got to put it on there. And eventually, didn't initially get put on the album. It was released as a single, but this album has different versions. They re-released the album and put that song on there, and it's probably their biggest song. It's not my favorite song on the album. Just the sequencing from the first song, Summer's Cauldron, to the second song is amazing, and comparison to the Beatles that I was talking about, a song like Season Cycle, just it feels like the Beatles without being a complete rip-off of the Beatles, which is funny because XTC from 77 to 84 were not like anybody. Like, they just weren't.
I didn't know they were a band that long.
They weren't. Oh, they've been a band since the mid 70s. Their last album was 2000. The year 2000. But they were kind of like I guess they were similar to the Talking Heads to some extent, but not really. There was really the only comparison you could make.
Yeah.
But them diving into their pop sensibilities on Skylarking really made a really amazing album, and it's one of my favorite albums to listen to from beginning to end because it all just works perfectly and seamlessly together.
Cool. So, speaking of, since we've talked so much about Kate Bush, my 1986 album is So.
Kate Bush's album from 1986, which doesn't exist. So.
It's So by Peter Gabriel, which
Peter Gabriel.
features Kate Bush.
Kate Bush song.
She's on Don't Give Up with him, actually. So, it's the best Peter Gabriel album.
It's a good album.
It's a fantastic album. Again, another toss-up between this and Us for me when it comes to my favorite Peter Gabriel album, but it's by far his best, like commercially, artistically. It's him. He, again, another album where found his sound and his footing of where he needed to be at that time. It's sequencing again, going back to the whole, it's 80s pop in a nutshell.
Yeah.
But it still has some of those experimental sounds that he would use in some of his songs. I don't really have a preference of what people would listen to on the record because, again, it's another one of those records where almost every song sounds different, but it's a pop record. Sledgehammer, biggest song he ever had on that record. Start There, Red Rain, Don't Give Up, That Voice Again. It's just a great record. Oh yeah, it's so good.
It's a banger. Yeah. What's the first song on that album?
Red Rain.
Oh yeah, that's a
great song.
Great opener. Yeah,
great song. So
great
record. It's so brooding, that song.
It's kind of dark. Yeah.
It's very dark.
Yeah.
And you open an album with that, of all things.
Gotta do it. Sometimes you gotta do it. Yeah. The Kate Bush influence was strong on that one.
I guess it was strong with Us as well. With Get Dirty.
Yeah. Well, I guess that was that a reference to our band?
Yes.
Our old band. Okay. Yeah. I guess so. Yeah.
It was our
sometimes
throwback to Hastings.
Sometimes you got to start off an album with a heavy one. You
got to.
Yeah.
Metallica.
Okay.
Every Metallica record.
Every Metallica album. Okay.
I'm so sorry.
Moving on to 87. Not particularly passionate about this album. It's just one of those years I had to put in an album.
Well, I know what it is.
It's not my favorite album by this band. What do you think it is?
I don't know.
Okay. This is not my favorite. This is probably my third favorite album from this band. But the other years just didn't line up the way that I wanted them to. And it's The Replacements' Pleased to Meet Me album. Still has some great songs on it.
Sure.
Alex Chilton was the lead singer of the band Big Star, and this is sort of like a tribute song to him, and it's one of The Replacements' best songs. And it's also them sort of like experimenting, which they've always experimented a little bit.
Sure.
You can make the case that The Replacements invented indie rock to some extent. But a song like Nightclub Jitters just has a really smooth jazz influence to it, which is crazy because they are not that band. They are not a smooth jazz band. And a song like The Ledge is one of their, I'm not going to say it's one of their heaviest songs, but easily one of their darkest songs. Pretty good album. Not my favorite Replacements album, but given what we had to do today, it's my album. It's my album from 1987.
Well, my album for 1987 is one of those albums. Like as soon as we got this topic. Yeah. As soon as we got this topic, I knew that was the first record. Go ahead. What?
It's definitely Joshua Tree.
You're right.
Okay, by U2.
It is Joshua Tree.
Because I thought about it on mine. I was like, I can't do it.
You couldn't justify it. I feel
like I just wouldn't be able to talk about it the way that I want to talk about it. And I figured I'd leave that to you.
This album was U2 being the U2 that we know today. Obnoxious, pompous, arrogant. No, I'm just kidding.
More of like that new age kind of U2 kind of vibe where in the early 80s they were more of a...
They're almost a punk band.
Yeah, there was a lot of angsty, bass heavy.
Yes, very much. But this
was a turning point.
This was this is almost like a gospel record at some points. It
really is. This has one on it, right?
No, Octane Baby's got one on it. This has Where the Streets Have No Name.
Okay, Where the Street Has No Names. Yeah.
I still haven't found what I'm looking for, which is literally a gospel song.
Yeah, it's almost like a contemporary Christian.
It is. But then you get to songs like Exit at the end of the record, and it's like, oh my God, these guys are like wanting to go out and kill a bunch of people. Is what it's
typical Bono. And then is it The Edge or Edge?
The Edge.
In The Edge.
But it's without question, it's the album that made them a household name.
Yeah, I would say so.
And I was lucky enough to I'm not like bragging or anything, but I was lucky enough to see this album like played in its entirety live.
You saw it while it was being recorded in '87.
In '87, that's right. That's right. But got to see them play this whole record live, and it's U2. I will always say is a better live band than they are a studio band, just because.
Yeah, I would say so.
It's the emotion and the energy they put into a performance. It's the same way with Kiss. I hate to say that, but Kiss is a better live band than they are an album band.
Yeah.
And the album just transcends whenever it's seen live. And I wish they would have released a live album of that tour. But yeah, so Where the Streets Have No Name is amazing. Trip Through Your Wires is amazing. And then Exit is just brooding, nasty. Love that freaking song. I love that song so much. But
nasty.
Okay.
Nasty. Well, are we on 88
We are
now?
88. We've got 4 left.
Now we're getting into typical Caleb bullcrap here.
Oh, God.
Typical Caleb.
Billy Joel,
the
nylon curtain.
We are slowly approaching the 90s, which, as we all know, is the greatest decade for music. But, there were a couple precursors that came, and this was one of them. I had to have one shoegaze album on here.
Oh, my God. I knew it.
And this was like the first shoegaze album, and it's My Bloody Valentine's debut album. Isn't anything. Honestly, like at times, this is a hard album to listen to because it's way more experimental than their other albums, which is crazy because their other 2 albums are very experimental.
Yeah,
but at times this album is just like, oh my God, this might be too much for me. But there are some really accessible, like standard shoegaze sort of like dream pop songs, like Lose My Breath. Nothing Much to Lose, and I Can See It, but I Can't Feel It. These songs are songs that if people was getting the My Bloody Valentine, say, okay, these are standard kind of like indie rock songs. They're not even that much shoegaze. But then you got a song like No More Sorry. Whenever I first got into this album, I was working night shift at the movie theater. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to get into this album by myself because I worked alone, and I'm going to listen to this album with headphones on. And
that was a mistake, wasn't it?
So this song like ruined me for like a week. Like I was very scared working in that theater alone because this song just has this eerie element to it. I'm 100% sure that the song is about domestic violence, and you feel that while listening to the song. And there's no drums in it. It's just like weird like tremolo picking guitars and like very like somber lyrics and vocals. But just listen to that by yourself in the middle of the night, like alone. It's just like, oh my God, like I gotta get out of here. But yeah, I do like the album. Their next album, Loveless, was definitely where they became My Bloody Valentine. But as a debut album and sort of like starting like that shoegaze Brit wave in the early '90s, this was you gotta count this album as being like kind of the first one.
Sure, yeah, sure. I love the artists that can take drums out of a song, like you were talking about.
Yeah, there's no drums in the song at all.
It's like when you can make your string instruments have the rhythm in your song. I love that. That's just personal preference. Yeah. 1988 for me. Again, an album we will not have to talk about very much.
Bad by Michael Jackson.
That's right. How'd you know?
Is it?
No.
Would that come out in 88? I don't know.
87 or 88.
Maybe somewhere around there.
I think it might have been 87.
It's a good album.
Yeah. It's Injustice for All by Metallica.
Oh yeah, them. I forgot about them.
Yeah. You forgot about that? How did you forget?
I'm not the biggest Metallica fan, but that is probably my favorite Metallica album.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? Injustice for All?
Dude, yeah. And the title track, does that have Blackened on it?
Yes.
Blackened.
That's what kicks off the...
And One are great. Those are
yeah,
just great metal songs. I love those songs, yeah.
And then you have like Dyer's Eve at the end, and it's just... insane.
The only thing bad about the album is that the songs are too long and there's no bass.
Yeah, well, that's the thing.
That sucks. That kind of sucks.
It really does.
Yeah.
Go listen to "Injustice for Jason" on YouTube, and that's the album the way it should have been. But you know,
maybe they could shorten the songs
to you're thinking of Saint Anger.
Saint Anger has some long songs on it too.
It's 79 minutes of just repetitive riffs.
No, I can't listen to that. No.
Yeah, But yeah, Shortest Straw, Dyer's Eve, Blackened. It's hard, it's heavy, it's metal in the face because you can't say metal up your on our podcast, unfortunately. Since we're a family-friendly podcast.
Sure, we're a family-friendly podcast.
Sure.
All the families want to listen to us talk about these very niche subjects.
I mean, they could.
They could, yeah. Okay.
Parents, make sure you have your children listen to us. It's fine.
All right, you done? Are you done with Metallica?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. One more.
Last one.
89. Some more typical Caleb stuff here, but They actually had kind of 3 albums there in the late 80s, but this was the one that I consistently stuck with, and that is Pixies' Doolittle album.
Yeah.
I got into Pixies. I don't want to say I got into Pixies then, but I was welcomed to Pixies from a video game called NCAA Football 2006. I don't know who controlled that game.
Who did you get this game from?
I got it from our friend Matt Fry. He gave it to me, and I only wanted it for the soundtrack. I don't know who had control of that soundtrack, but they put nothing but like 80s, 90s punk rock and indie rock, which made no sense, but It got me into so many bands, because Lush was on there, and Bad Religion and NoFX was on there, but Pixies had a song on there called Debaser, and Debaser is one of their biggest songs, just the opening track on Doolittle, and I always liked the song, but I never really got into the album until maybe like my late teens, early 20s. And, obviously this album doesn't have like their biggest song, which is Where's My Mind? It doesn't have that song on it, but it has Debaser, Wave of Mutilation, and another really, really big song, Hey. Yeah, Hey. I was trying to think of this other song. What's it called?
Hey.
What's the song called? Oh, gosh, I feel so stupid. Forgive me, Pixies people. But there's so many just short little ditties on this album.
We have so many Pixies fans listening to this podcast right
Pixies
now.
they're one of the most influential bands of all time.
I'm not taking anything away from them.
Without Pixies, there's really no 90s indie rock. And I know you're not a fan. Without Pixies, there is no Nirvana. There's none.
We'll talk about Nirvana.
Which you probably welcome. But I love this album. I would say it's my favorite Pixies album. And I think a lot of people consider it the greatest indie rock album. If you want to consider it an indie rock album, it was sort of a precursor, more of just a weird alternative rock album.
Sure.
Super great. Love it. What's your last one?
Well, we're going to end on a dud.
Oh, gosh.
A dud.
Sensual World by Kate Bush.
You're right. God, how did I not know that? No. My 1989 album is Hot in the Shade by Kiss.
I was waiting for it.
You knew Kiss was going to make it here somewhere. I was going to ask you
last, like a couple years ago, like 87. I was going, where's the Kiss? Is there no Kiss albums on here?
Well, see, here's the problem. All of the records that come out in the 80s for Kiss, I liked, but I like these other records more.
Okay.
But I didn't have a 1989 album, and I want to throw a Kiss album on here, and I legitimately do love this album.
No T Swift?
Shut up, Caleb. Jesus Christ.
I got a bone to pick. You continue, but I got a slight bone to pick with 1989, the album by Taylor Swift, after we get done.
Okay. Okay.
Continue with Kiss.
So, Hot in the Shade by Kiss is essentially an album of demos.
Oh.
But it's not demos. Let me so, backstory, real fast. Kiss was broke in 1989. Like, they had like little to no money. So they took all of their demo tapes, took them into the studio, and just overdubbed the demo tapes, pretty much. Mm-hmm. And they got like a 16-song album out of it. And some of the songs on this album are garbage. I about said something else. Some of them are garbage. Gene's songs on this record are just not good.
Mm-hmm.
But Paul's songs on this record is fantastic. And I'm mad that they never play any of them live. But it had Forever on it as well, which was their highest charting song since Beth in 76.
Mm-hmm.
So even though it is an album of demos, it does have probably their second biggest song of all time on it. Love the record. Paul's songs anyway. Gene's songs are okay, like I said. Some of them aren't good at all. But King of Hearts, Silver Spoon, You Love Me, I Hate You. Those 3 songs, absolutely just kick butt songs as far as Kiss songs go. And I think that those should be still in their set list for the End of the Road tour. But, who
Get it together, guys.
Get it together. Stop.
Come on.
Stop playing rock and roll all night.
Yeah, I agree.
That's never going to happen.
Stop it.
So, yes, Hot in the Shade, 1989. That's my 10.
Yeah.
It's your 10. Now, what's your bone to pick with 1989?
Just very quick. 1989 beat "To Pimp a Butterfly" by Kendrick Lamar at the Grammys. And if you look at any album, any list that lists like the greatest albums of all time, you know what album you're never gonna find on that list? You're never gonna find 1989 by Taylor Swift. But you know what you're gonna consistently see? You're gonna see "To Pimp a Butterfly" by Kendrick Lamar. And I'm still bitter about it. 1989 is a fine album. "To Pimp a Butterfly" is an all-time great. That was my Kanye moment there.
Apparently, you had a good one there, didn't you?
Okay.
Well, Caleb, so that is our.
Are you drawing today?
It's my draw.
Okay, I couldn't remember.
You had 80s last time.
Okay,
you picked the 80s,
okay.
Or at least that's what the format says.
You better draw a good one.
God, I hope I do.
That's our 80s. I hope you all liked our 80s albums. They were.
Yeah, go check some of them out.
I think it was unique enough.
They're pretty good. Oh, okay. So
redraw. I don't even know what it is.
I believe this was another Erica topic, I believe.
Oh no, what is it?
So next week we're going to be talking about banned books.
Oh, banned books. Like stuff that have been banned.
Banned books, like books that have been banned. So we got a
no.
lot of research to talk about next week.
I'm not going to be very helpful.
I'm not going to be very helpful either. Maybe we'll
have to bring her on.
Maybe we'll contact Erica and have her. We can throw Nancy on too, since she reads a lot of books and stuff.
We'll hand the mics over to someone who knows better.
Yeah, we'll just MC that one.
Yeah, we'll just MC it.
Well, folks, so I hope you've enjoyed the 80s records. Next week we're going to talk about banned books.
Added some extra syllables in there.
Well, it's the accent. I can't help it. Not banned as in what we just talked about. Banned.
Some banned books.
Thank you. Stop it.
Sorry.
All right. So thank you for listening to Chat from a Hat. I'm Josh Brown.
And I'm Caleb Luther.
And we will talk to you next week about banned books.